I've never seen anything quite like this before. I have, but not this blatant and not this obvious. And after I show you guys the clip, I'm going to share with you exactly what you're watching. I did some research on this particular pastor, and I know who he is, but this was just weird. This was just weird. I don't even know what to say about this one other than we just be doing too darn much. We just be doing too darn much. It's that simple. Like, let me show y'all this clip, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
In the house. To Trinity, none other than Kendrick Lamar. But there's a video to introduce Kendrick at this moment. Get the video.
Kendrick Lamar here. Kendrick Lamar here.
Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar here. Am I good? Okay. I don't know. Okay. Kendrick Lamar here. I curated original songs on the soundtrack of the 2018 film Black Panther, earning an Academy Award nomination. This year, I won 5 Grammys, and the Super Bowl halftime show broke domestic viewership records. This is Black history, y'all. This is my opera.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kendrick Lamar, backed up by the Lamar choreographed team. Serena in the house.
All right. Y'all had to pause this because I don't even know what's happening. I mean, I know what's happening, but I'm trying to understand like who asked for this. And then the more I thought about it, I said, okay, I can explain a little bit about what you're witnessing and what's happening. So this is a church up in Chicago, Illinois. It is Trinity United Church of Christ. And just for some context and reference, this church was actually Obama's church when he was going or allegedly going. I don't know if you guys remember Jeremiah writes the, goddamn America, that whole situation during the Obama campaign, during his first presidential run. That's this church. Well, this church is now pastored by Otis Moss III, who, if I'm not mistaken, I think Otis went to Morehouse. Oh, what a shame. But Otis is the pastor of this church. And let me give you guys some fun facts. So obviously I just said Jeremiah Wright is the former pastor. This is Trinity United Church of Christ, which is Obama's former church. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're working with here. And let me just read you guys. This is a Black history celebration on the Lord's Day in the middle of a Sunday worship service. In the middle of a Sunday worship service, you have a reenactment of, or should I say, it's a recognition of notable Black people who've accomplished something of importance. And the pastor thought it was a good idea to take time out of the Lord's Day and then to highlight these Black historical figures. When we're supposed to be worshiping the one true God, he wanted to pause and do this. But it's not just that. It's the fact that he actually has members of the church. They are dressed up and they are in character as a multiple of different people. Stevie Wonder, the chick in the beginning of the video with the white on, that's supposed to be Beyonce. Why are we saying listen, I'm just reporting. That's supposed to be Beyonce. Then you had Kendrick Lamar is who this gentleman is supposed to be, and this is supposed to be a reenactment of the Super Bowl. And then they got the little dancers, these poor children. And then you had the Serena character come in and crip walk in the church celebrating gang culture. Anyway, let me give you guys a fun fact. I'm going to read from Dr. Moss's bio. And when I read this, it's going to explain in greater detail exactly what we're working with here. So from his bio, it says, Dr. Moss preaches a theology of liberation rooted in a Black spirituality of love and justice. His passion for African American culture and history, combined with the deep appreciation for jazz and hip hop, have culminated in a unique message of hope and healing through a jazz narrative on American democracy. Quite never read a bio from a pastor that discussed typically, a pastor will, talk about his conversion of when he came to the Lord, maybe where he went to seminary, and that his ultimate job is pointing people to Christ, who's the author and finisher of his faith. No, not Dr. Moss. Dr. Moss wanted you to know that he preaches a theology of liberation. Is that key word there? Rooted in a Black spirituality of love and justice. Now, I don't know what Bible he is reading, but my Bible, nowhere on its pages of Holy Writ do we ever learn of a theology of Black spirituality in the scriptures. In fact, it is sinful to show partiality on the basis of ethnicity for any reason. Why? Because our reconciliation to God in Christ has reconciled us to one another, other image bearers. And so I don't know how you preach a gospel of reconciliation when your theology is rooted in Black spirituality of love and justice. I mean, can you imagine, like, if a white pastor had a part of his bio that Dr. Johnson preaches a theology of liberation rooted in white spirituality of love and justice? Like, how does that work? The inverse of that. Like, can we do that in good faith, or would that be a problem? I think it would be a problem. And then it says, because he has a passion for African American culture and history, combined with a deep appreciation for jazz and hip hop, basically what he's done is he's created, this is my opinion based on what he said. Okay, I'm not making this up. I just read from his bio. If I read, it says, his passion for African American culture and history combined with a deep appreciation for jazz and hip hop have culminated in a unique message. There's that another gospel of healing through a jazz narrative on American democracy. That is not the gospel of Christ. You don't get to reinvent the gospel and filter the gospel of Christ through the lens of the things that you are passionate about. I get it. You are free to love Black American, African American history, arts, the culture, jazz, hip hop. The problem is, don't nobody care about what's important to you. You are supposed to be a preacher of the gospel of Jesus. This, my friends, is a different gospel. You don't get to create. This is synergism. Synergism is where you taking some of this and some of that, and then you're putting it together and you're creating an amalgamation of another religion. This isn't Christianity. Never are we told to reinvent the gospel or reimagine a gospel and teach it, preach it, or live it through a different lens. A lens of, because I I like jazz and hip hop. Therefore, the way I'm going to teach the people is I'm going to create this unique message of hope and healing. I'm sorry. The gospel of Christ is sufficient all by itself. It doesn't need you to put your own little personal spin on it. Okay? Like, it is the efficacious work of what Christ accomplished on the cross. Is it not powerful enough to save and raise the dead sinner's heart to newness of life, or does it need something else? It needs jazz and hip hop, and then you put it all together to create a unique message. We don't want a unique message. The Christian is admonished to hold fast to the apostles' teaching, right? Like when we gather on Sunday, we are supposed to be dedicated and to devote ourselves to the apostles' teaching, the breaking of bread, the praying of prayers. That's why we gather. We don't gather for this. Whatever this is ethnic narcissism on steroids. That's what this is. This is, I am so absorbed and self-absorbed, and the idol of my blackness is so great that I'm blinded. I am too blinded by the truth of the gospel because there ain't no room for the gospel of Christ because it's too rooted in the blackness. That's what this is. He said it himself. He preaches through this lens and puts a different spin on American democracy. What the heck does American democracy have to do with the gospel of Jesus? You have no book, chapter, or verse to substantiate this foolishness, but yet here we are. Here's what I'd like to say about this. I'm going to let it play some more just for the entertainment factor of it all. But Jesus didn't come with a separate message for Black people. I know we like to think that our struggle through the Middle Passage and through the transatlantic slave trade and through the years of the oppression of of slavery in this country requires us to have some unique message of hope and healing. It doesn't. Either the gospel saves to the uttermost or it doesn't. Either you are a sinner in need of a savior like every other people group on the face of the earth, or you don't. We don't need a special message. We don't need the gospel filtered through a lens of ethnicity or culture or hip hop or the arts in order for it to save you. In fact, that is a perversion of the gospel. That is a distortion. What did Galatians 1, he says that I am astonished that you are so quickly turning away to another gospel as if there's another. Man, I don't want to misquote it. Let me quote it. When the Apostle Paul is talking to the Judaizers about them being bewitched, he says, I am astonished that you are so quickly deserting him who called you in the grace of our God, of Christ, and turning to a different gospel. Not that there is another one, but there are some who trouble you and want to distort the gospel of Christ. And then listen to what Paul says. He says, but even if we or an angel from heaven should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one we preach to you, let him be accursed. And then in case the people in the back who ain't hear him, Apostle Paul says, as we have said it before, so now I say it again. If anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one you received, let him be accursed. From this man's own website, he is telling you this is a different gospel because it's culminating in a unique message. I don't want a unique message. I want the one that was handed down by the prophets and the apostles with the finished work of Jesus. That's the one I want. I don't want this blackness. I don't want a gospel bathed in blackness. It can't save me. I love being Black. There are some cultural distinctives that Black people have that other people can't mimic even if they want to. The problem is we are not afforded that unique ethnic expression as something to glory in. Since when do we glory in our flesh like this? On the Lord's Day in the church? If white people did this in the spirit of celebrating whiteness, these folks would they'd be tearing their clothes off, burning them in effigy, because they would lose their minds. Why is it that we are allowed to do this? Why is it that we're allowed to do this? Here's the issue. The Bible speaks of there's no black spirituality. I don't. This is another religion. This is not the Christian faith. I looked on Trinity United's website. They are a member of the Progressive National Baptist Convention. So that lets you know already that they're already holding to a different gospel. But when you go to the church's website, the reason why they are doing this is because in their religion, this is not Christianity, in this religion, your blackness is the primary thing from which you view the world and you see all things. It's through the lens of oppression and through the lens of liberation. And it is so bad. Let me show you how bad it is. Let me show y'all this. Can y'all see that? Hold on. Give me a second. Ugh. Hold on. Give me a second. All right. Y'all see this? I went to their website because I'm like, these people have really lost their minds. I was like, I get it. Listen, Black History comes every year, Black History Month. And I think Black people have made some of the most amazing, notable contributions to make this country flourish. And by all means, we should acknowledge them. I don't know why we need a month for that. We should be able to just do that every day. When you function in your freedom and you are fully assimilated as a citizen of this country and you recognize that this is your country, you don't obsess so much about, and you don't spend a whole lot of time trying to segregate yourself and uplift yourself because you are secure in who you are. You are secure in, your blackness, if that's what you want to call it. Like, you don't need to have it reaffirmed every day as if you're going to forget tomorrow that you're Black. You function in your freedom and you know that you have access to the rights and privileges of every other citizen in this country. And when you feel that you don't, you take that grievance up legislatively, and there are all of these things afforded to us via the Constitution that if you have a grievance, you can take it up legislatively. You can litigate the matter and do all the things that you feel are necessary to demonstrate that to demonstrate that your rights have been violated. The issue that I have is two issues here. One, why is this happening in a church? And two, if a person of another ethnicity can't come to your church because of the rhetoric you're preaching, that should tell you that it's not representative of the true gospel of Jesus, right? Like, your church shouldn't be known more for its ethnic expression, more so than it should be known for it is a church that preaches the word of God in its full authenticity. Like, that's how a church is supposed to be known. What that doesn't mean is that the vast majority of the people can't be all the same ethnicity. Absolutely you can, right? If you on the south side of Chicago, it ain't a whole lot of white people on the south side of Chicago. You're not in sin if you don't have any white people in your church, but you are in sin when you're doing stuff like this. So let me show you guys what you're looking at. This church is so bathed and baptized in the blackness that I actually got this PDF off their website. They had like 4 weeks of it. I mean, it's a whole curriculum, right? This MAFA 2025. Psalms in the Key of Life. It's amazing how they infuse all of this secular ideology, critical race theory, African spirituality. They done mixed all of this together and created this whole new religion. where you glory in your flesh and Christ ain't nowhere to be found. So here, this is the word from the pastor, where he attempts to quote the Apostle John, and then he wants to infuse or blend the Apostle John with Langston Hughes. I'm not going to get into this poem. The poem bothers me greatly. And the poem bothers me greatly because we, and when I say we, the Black diaspora within this nation, we've been indoctrinated to believe that so many of our civil rights icons and those who fought for the cause actually were doing so from a place of righteous indignation. When I actually look at their rhetoric and what they were saying, these were not good people. A lot of these people just were not good people. Namely, Nikki Giovanni, she one of them. He gonna celebrate her. But I just wanted to highlight their church is not spending time learning about church history and the church fathers and our Christian heritage. Because, you know, when you're in Christ, that's supposed to be important. No, they've taken all of this time to baptize you with an ethnic narcissistic framework. That's what this is. So here, this is the poem on Langston Hughes. You can read it if you want to. This is the contents. This is really what I wanted to show y'all. The first person of antiquity that they want to celebrate is Mansa Musa. And I think the pro-blackity blacks like Mansa because he was very wealthy. He was a man of means. He had a boatload of money. But the part they don't tell you is that Mansa Musa was like one of the largest slave traders. Like they just leave out that part. They always want to lay condemnation, the perpetual condemnation of slavery and oppression at the feet of white people. But here they're celebrating this guy right here who was this man had so many slaves. It was just ridiculous. Why are you celebrating Mansa Musa? Jamal Bryant also had him on his shirt. I told you these melanated Marxists, they always dry snitch and tell you who they are and what they believe and why they believe it. I'm looking at this trying to figure out, why are you celebrating the legacy of Mansa Musa? Not the legacy of Athanasius, one of the church fathers, Augustine, maybe. I mean, if you want to make an argument that you want your church to know about church history and its influence of how Northern Africa, Christianity was in Northern Africa before it was in Europe, I'll even grant you that. I'll grant you that. If you just have to have a history lesson to where you see yourself in history because it's that important to you, you could have went to Athanasius. Someone who was from North Africa, who's incredibly influential. We have the codifying of the triune nature of God. We can thank Athanasius for that, the Athanasius Creed. But no, we got Mansa Musa. Someone who was a God hater, who didn't even believe in the God you serve. You want to take time out to teach your people to celebrate this. Confusing to me. Then this woman here, I ain't gonna spend a whole lot of time on her, but this is who I want to spend some time on. Oh, I'm confused. Y'all gonna be mad at me for this one, but I gotta get this out. In these pro-blackity black circles and these Afrocentric black churches, they spend a lot of time putting a lot of emphasis on African heritage, right? And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. I personally, I'm an American. I don't have a connection to Africa, but let's just go with it. How is it Africans in Africa, they are not overly obsessed with Americans, Black Americans. They disavow Black Americans. In fact, we spend all this time celebrating all this African heritage when I'm like, you don't even want to have a conversation about the Africans who sold you, humans, to the Europeans. You are willing to absolve them of the responsibility and even the acknowledgement of it. They ain't sent not one canoe over here to check on us. But you itching for an identity so bad that you just got to get in touch with the motherland. And them people ain't thinking about you. If they was thinking about you, if the argument is that there were Africans on the northern hemisphere on this continent alongside the Native Americans, that means they knew how to get over here. That means they knew where you were. Like, they knew when they sold you to the Europeans, they knew exactly where them Europeans was taking you. They ain't come check on you. They ain't come to see about you. They knew how to get here. Some of them were already here. But you spend all this time hating white people. Why, I don't know. And you don't have the same, and then celebrating the same people who sold you. And who ain't thinking, they ain't spending they're not losing a lick of sleep checking for you. But the idolatry in your heart is so hell-bent on celebrating all this African heritage. And I'm like, why? Like, you ain't never been over there. You ain't been over there. They ain't invited you to come and take a look, see, nothing. I don't understand. Are we that? You say this country hates you, and when they extend the olive branch to include you and say you are equal based on merit, you don't want that. Instead, you want to go back to this. And I'm like, fine. Why aren't you over there? If that's where you want to be, why aren't you over there? You're not over there because they don't want you over there. They think we're lazy. They're just like, y'all don't work hard. Y'all listen, y'all stay over there. And then y'all got all that sodomite homosexuality stuff too. Don't come over here. Y'all leave that over there. It's just an observation. I've noticed a lot of the pro-blackity blacks have an obsession with Africa, but they never answer the question. I mean, have you had a discussion with the people who actually sold you into slavery? Like, they don't get no smoke. We always cry, we want reparations. That's who owes it. If you really want to talk. Here's influential of traditional instruments on African American music. Like, this is in church, y'all. Here's the voices of resistance that I wanted to highlight. The church celebrated Marvin Gaye, Quincy Jones, Curtis Mayfield. This orangutan right here. I've done a show on Nikki Giovanni and her influence in destroying the Black family. I don't know why we're celebrating her. I don't know. This woman made it clear that it was her mission to help Black women realize that marriage was slavery. And that the only reason why you need a man is so you can have his seed and have the baby, but you don't need him. Take the seed, discard the man. That's who Nikki Giovanni is. A lesbian misandrist. She hated men. And then later in her life married a white woman, and you want us to celebrate her because her poetry was beautiful? Of all the things for us to celebrate, these are the individuals that they want us to highlight and celebrate and do it in church on the Lord's Day. Beyonce? What is so virtuous about Beyonce outside of the fact that she done sold a whole lot of records selling poisonous feminism to Black women while she go home to her husband and her children? Why are we celebrating that? Why is she even getting acknowledged and receiving an honorable mention in a church service on the Lord's Day, as if she's done something notable and worthy of recognition? Is you're teaching the young women in your church to be like Beyonce or to be like Serena Williams and Crip Walk? I don't understand why we celebrate the people who are responsible for the degradation of our people, and then in the next breath claim that white people hate us. I don't know. Is this a form of self-hatred? I don't know. Because I don't see how this was positive or appropriate to do on the Lord's Day. You have two situations happening that I'm arguing. I am arguing that this was wrong to infuse the secular and the profane with what is supposed to be a gathering on the Lord's Day of God's people, where all we do is focus on Christ and Him crucified. This was inappropriate from a theological perspective. That's one argument. The other argument is, culturally, the people that you're celebrating, why is it virtuous? On what basis do these people deserve an honorable mention when you're supposed to be a Christian first before you are Black? You can clearly see in this context, these people are Black and Christianity is nowhere in the room. And the reason why we know it's nowhere in the room, because the pastor's own bio tells you that he's a synergist. He is a progressive synergist that preaches a theology that's rooted in the Blackness and the liberation. Not, you need to be liberated from the besetting sin that has you dead in your sin and trespasses, and you need to be made alive in Christ Jesus. No, that ain't what he's preaching. And I'm going to show you a video of this same pastor who had something to say about the Black conservatives who were recently at the White House. Now I'm trying to understand why this even came up on the Lord's Day. Like, why are you even concerned about this? Oh, I know. It's because you aren't about your Father's business. You care so much about the culture and what's happening in the culture. And it is useful and profitable for you to keep your people ignorant, perpetually outraged, and focused on their victimhood and oppression than to free them and say, do you not know who the Son has set free is free indeed? Like, why are you talking about what happened at the White House on the Lord's Day in a pulpit rant is beyond me. But here we are. So now we got to talk about it. Y'all, this PDF was wild. It was wild. He's got all sort of, not theological works to help Christians, to strengthen them in their Christian walk and their faith with Christ, but just bathing in the Blackness. Bathing in the Blackness. We wonder why we're so idolatrous, and we wonder why we can't heal and move forward as equal citizens in this country, because I don't think we want that. We want to be perpetually outraged and angry and upset, because if you don't have a boogeyman, it's like, well, what are we going to complain about? To me, it is more useful and profitable for us to focus on how can we strengthen our own homes, right? Like, how can we raise our children in the fear and admonition of the Lord, teach them to be good citizens, teach them how to assimilate and to be productive members of society by teaching them good manners, just, I don't know, the basics, as opposed to teaching them to view the world through a perpetual lens of oppression and victimhood. I don't see how that's going to be useful or meaningful for any young person growing up in 2025. I don't see how that's going to help them in their journey at all. They're going to go into the world and they're going to realize that much of what they've been told, that you were lying to them, because they're going to be like, I've went plenty of places where people didn't look like me and nobody called me the N-word, or or put it like this, they're going to project all that hatred that you were teaching them to have. They're going to project and inject it where it doesn't even exist. Like, the moment there's a disagreement between them and a person of another ethnicity, they're going to automatically assume that it's because they're Black and not because they were either a jerk or they were actually just wrong about something. They were in the wrong. Not saying that's always the case. The other person could be in the wrong too. But at what point do you learn how to engage with people who are different from you without automatically assuming the worst? you.